This is Bloomberg Businessweek with Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
Yo, what up, everybody? Roy and Kitty here. I'm going to pick a stock and talk about why I think it's interesting, and that stock is GameStop.
Retail traders have hooked into GameStop.
I think they think it's a good investment. It looks like there's one guy driving all the buying.
Who is this schmuck?
All right. Well, art imitating life once again this week. Opening nationally today, Dumb Money, the real life story brought to the big screen of the working class Redditors who became investors during the pandemic, making and I'm guessing losing some money along the way as well. And perhaps even more interestingly and shockingly, turning Wall Street upside down. Jess, we were living this day to day as it played out during the pandemic.
Especially when you think of GME for GameStop, AMC, all these names that come to mind that were just taking off in the beginning of 2021, right?
Out of nowhere. And like it was like, wait,
what's going on here?
Fundamentals? Who cares?
Went out the window.
All right, so let's get to it because Ryder is producer of Dumb Money. As we said, this movie opening nationally today. He joins us on Zoom in Los Angeles. Aaron, no stranger to the big screen. Among other things, he, of course, did producer Christopher Nolan's Memento. So really good to have him here. Welcome, Aaron. Big day, big movie. We all lived it. So we've all been talking about it big time in the newsroom, looking at your trailer. There's a word in it that we sometimes say in the newsroom, but it was said a lot in the trailer because it was a crazy time. What was the spark, catalyst, media headline conversation that got your attention and made you want to do a movie about this?
Well, first off, thanks for having me. Great to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
So I was in Montreal up in quarantine when this was all going down in January 2021. Back then it was before the vaccines, as you probably remember. And when you went from the United States to Canada, you had to do a 14-day state mandated quarantine. So I was pretty much glued to the internet, just hearing all these headlines and seeing everything that was going down. And I could not escape all of this news about the store that I kind of knew about when you go to the mall and why its stock was going through the roof. And it was, you guys were covering it. It was everywhere. And so it was hard to ignore it.
So how do you take something that, right, it was in our face and all of us were trying to make sense of it. So how do you say, wow, that's really interesting and it's a conversation with your buddies versus I want to do something more with it. So take us there.
Well, I got this great phone call from a guy named Kevin Ulrich, who happened to own the studio that I have a deal with or had a deal with at the time. And he basically was like, look, I think there's a movie here. And the amazing thing about this, not just because it was in the headlines, not every headline will make a great movie, but there was this great David versus Goliath theme woven throughout this. And it wasn't just me or Kevin or anyone else that thought there could be a movie here. Half of Hollywood was chasing this story, thinking that it could be a great idea for a film. And so it became a real race to try to get the rights to a book or a podcast to serve as the basis for that story.
You also, from what I understand, tracked down Ben Mesrich's book, Dumb Money, Adventures of a Day Trader, which is what the film is based on. So get us there. Like, did you reach out?
Sure, Ben, it was kind of an amazing moment. I'd heard this rumor that Ben, who had written, he's covered so many of these things in his career. He's written books on so many great topics that have been turned into great movies, including Social Network. And so I heard that Ben had a book proposal and everyone was after it. So I kind of found my way into the heart of his agent and convinced him to get me a copy of the 7-page book proposal that he was currently writing on the phenomenon that we were all watching. So I heard about it and did what us producers do. We chase material and good ideas and got this book proposal. And, it was all kind of there. You could feel how you could easily turn this story into a narrative for a film that would capture an audience. So that was getting that thing and working with Ben, who could not have been a better architect of a story like this.
Thank you, Wall Street, right? It just kind of continues to give and give, whether it's the great financial crisis, whether it's tech bubbles, whether it's the creation of some incredible companies. Like, there's just unbelievable stories. Having said that, like, when you look at something like what happened during this meme stock era, there's a lot of stories in it. There's, just the trading element. There's the individuals who were involved who were not the normal people, Aaron, that we here at Bloomberg typically write about.
No, you're 100% right. It was like in this moment, as we were all trapped in our homes, maybe with a little bit more money from the stimulus check that you got, and we were glued to, we did not have the connectivity to our friends or our family. We began to form communities online. And I feel like this moment was like the moment that Wall Street was gamified and in some ways democratized, where people that normally hadn't been investing on Wall Street and paying attention to these sort of things, they gathered around this movement, and an army gathered. And I feel like this was the first time that we saw that, and Wall Street felt the impact of that army that gathered.
How did you think about what the stories you wanted to tell specifically, right? Because it's really fun to look at the trailer, and I was thinking about, Ken Griffin and, others that are certainly individuals that we talk about all the time here. Steve Cohen, Gabe Plotkin. So there's, the establishment side of it. Then there's the Redditors in terms of, these people, their worlds were changing dramatically. So just as you approach this project, what were the stories you wanted to make sure you got out there?
Well, it's a great question. We really wanted to make this movie about and for those people that were on the Reddit boards, the people that were involved in this and got involved. And, it starts with Keith Gill, Roaring Kitty. He was in large part the face of this movement and the person that we all kind of identified with the GameStop phenomenon. So you knew he had to be, the focal point of a lot of the story. And he very much, he is. I mean, that's where it all kind of started. So, and then it was really Ben's book and the research that he did. And Lauren and Rebecca, our two screenwriters, who were able to kind of do a bunch of research and find these real people who went through this experience. And there's so many. The hard part was kind of discerning the people that were involved with this and finding those really great stories that had a satisfying ending to them or had a little bit of tragedy to them, the things that would make a good movie. We weren't making a documentary here. What we're trying to do is make something that shows this moment in time that we all lived through, but it was actually really a fun moment because we'd never seen anything like this before.
I'm curious who you talked to. I remember talking to Oliver Stone about Wall Street and then the sequel of who did you talk to get the feel? Even the same thing with Billions. We've done a panel here at Bloomberg and the guys who did you, because they really did talk to, folks on Wall Street really to kind of get the feel and make sure they were accurate. Who did you talk to in making this?
Well, look, there's so much stuff that's out there.
That's true.
Right now. Yeah, there's so much stuff that you can learn. And there's so many things in the headlines because everybody was talking about this. And when you go see the movie, it's a very easy film to understand. You do not have to be an investor in Wall Street to understand this movie, nor do you have to be some sort of economics major to understand what was going on here. It's a movie for the everyman, and that's really important in the construction of it. We didn't want to be weighing this down with jargon about, the economy or jargon about investing and that sort of thing. We're trying to make it for an everyman. So we took that approach. And so in our research, it was really focusing on the everyday people and how they look at investing and how they look at the stock market and how they maybe even see that the system may very well be rigged.
Aaron, I was wondering, when you were, certainly reading the headlines like the rest of us, did you trade in any of these? Did you actually participate in any of this in terms of the market trade?
It's really funny, actually, because I hadn't.
You're going to say yes, aren't you?
Yeah, I totally am. I actually got my Robinhood account. I wanted to understand how it worked and how it operated. So I got involved with Robinhood, and I wanted to see how people were doing it. So I very much participated. I got involved with that, and I started to buy a couple shares here and there to just kind of see how the everyman was going about it. And I needed to understand how the apparatus worked as well. So yeah, I got deep in it. And I think there's no other way to really understand it unless you're doing it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Did you make money in the process? Or
I can't. I don't even tell you how much money I lost.
And that's part of it. What's really kind of wild, though, these individuals who started. I'll be honest with you. I just remember on a day when we'd have to highlight a stock, and obviously we're going to highlight these because they were moving in such a dramatic way in a market where these were names and individuals who were shaping the overall trade. It was pretty phenomenal. Aaron, don't go anywhere because I'm curious about the actors that were lined up and just as the movie progressed, just what you were kind of feeling and the feedback feedback you were getting. And I'm also curious about the real live Steve Cohens or Gabe Plotkins or Ken Griffin, if you've heard from any of them. So hang on. We're going to come back to you in just a moment. We're going to continue with Aaron Ryder, producer of Dumb Money, on Zoom from Los Angeles. I have to say, Jess, I haven't seen the movie yet.
Neither have I, but
I was thinking about, like, you were here, right, with all of our Wall Street team and reporting on things, and it was just kind of crazy.
It really was wild, and you couldn't stop following it. And obviously, as a reporter, I had to, but I couldn't take my eyes off of it, even when I was not reporting on it.
And then there was a reckoning because the regulators got involved. So we're going to come back to Aaron Ryder in just a moment, the producer of Dumb Money. Delighted to still have with us Aaron Ryder, producer of Dumb Money, on Zoom in Los Angeles, the movie opening up nationally on this Friday. Aaron, how easy was it to make this movie in terms of financially getting the funding?
Well, no movie's ever easy to make. It's a bit of a miracle when we actually pull it off. This one, it was a little bit complicated. We started out I had to deal with a studio, MGM, and we started to make the movie with them. But somewhere along the way, about in pre-production, MGM had sold themselves to Amazon, and that's when things got a bit more complicated, let's say, just because you have this brand new giant entity that takes over a movie studio, and everything kind of slowed down. So we were not able to move forward under that sort of deal that we had made. So we went out and found ourselves independent financiers, and we found an excellent partner with a company called Black Bear, and Teddy Schwartzman came on as our partner, and we made the film together. So it started out as a studio movie, ended up independent, and then we found a home with a studio with Sony. So that's how it came together.
I have to jump in because if Schwartzman sounds familiar to our audience, which it certainly does, Steve Schwartzman, of course, is his father. Steve Schwartzman, I've talked to him. He's the co-founder, or founder, I should say, of Blackstone, the private equity giant. So it's kind of interesting to have that funding behind this film, in a film that also kind of makes a little fun of, right, the hedge fund dudes. I mean, they really, kind of really were caught off guard during this whole process, if you will, of the meme stock craze. A lot of them were, shorting some of these names, and it really was uncomfortable for them. I'm curious about how you thought about their portrayal in the movie.
Well, look, these are real people, obviously. We did a really good job at trying to tell the truth here. And our job is first and foremost to make a really compelling and entertaining movie. And just so happens that the subject matter made it very easy for us to be able to do that. So, we weren't out to try to overly vilify anybody. It was just to tell an honest story of what happened in this one particular moment in time.
Well, exactly. Talk to us too about the actors. The lineup is pretty amazing. Paul Dano, Pete
cast,
Davidson.
Right?
Yeah, talk to us about this cast.
Sure. I mean, look, it all started with Paul Dano, because we the face of this movement, as we said before, is Keith Gill, and who's going to play that? He's iconic now, and so Paul is somebody that both Craig and I really had been trying to find something to do with. He's just an exceptional actor, and he just embodies Keith Gill to such a degree. He's got this great sense of humor and energy to him. And I think you'll see Paul in a way you've never seen him before. And as far as the rest of the cast goes, it's an embarrassment of riches, to be honest with you. We have such a great lineup, mostly people that have been friends that myself or Craig have worked with in the past, between Seth Rogen and Nick Offerman, Pete Davidson, Shailene Woodley. It's kind of a remarkable ensemble. One I'm really proud of, and a testament to the fact that I think everybody knew this story and in one way or another wanted to get involved.
I love that. Is it a little frustrating with the Hollywood actors strike that this incredible lineup of actors can't be out there talking about the movie?
A little frustrating might be an understatement.
Sorry.
Yeah, it is. It's unfortunate, but we feel like this moment is the moment for this movie. Given what's going on in the country, the division we have, the fact that we all lived through this, it just feels like this is the right kind of movement and right kind of moment for a film like this. And I think it's reflected in the strikes that you're seeing all throughout the country, not just in my line of work with the actors and the writers going on strike, but the auto workers and everyone else. There's a lot of disparity out there, and I feel like this movie does a good job of of highlighting that. And so we felt like now's the time to show this to the world. And yes, it's disappointing not to have actors there because we went through the journey with them, and it's always a lot of fun to go out and promote a movie. But it seems to be generating a lot of interest. Yeah. I like to think that, what do we need the actors for, right?
Ouch. Your phone's ringing, Aaron. No, it's interesting. Well, the Times, I thought, said it really well, too. They said, your movie about a populist uprising, right? These, kind of small retail investors, these guys just kind of doing their thing on Reddit and elsewhere, and really kind of bringing down the establishment in terms of the trading environment. And you think about these hedge fund titans, like, it's pretty remarkable. But as you say, like, we also are seeing workers really step out and speak up for their own rights. In terms of Hollywood, what is it that, I think about our audience, a smart audience, though, needs to understand about what's really happening there at those picket lines in a world where we're talking a lot about, the next level of artificial intelligence and what kind of jobs that takes out and what it means for the creative world?
I think it's, look, we've reached the moment, an inflection point, if you will, and most industries go through it. The entertainment industry certainly has its moments as well. It happened back in the early 60s when actors went on strikes about residuals and that sort of thing as television became more and more prominent. And we're in that moment right now, and it's in large part it was probably going to happen a couple of years ago, but the pandemic disrupted things. And so this was a moment that was bound to happen with this, the proliferation of streamers and that sort of thing, changing our business dramatically, which it has. And so with that sort of change comes a recalibration of how people are paid and what fair wages mean. And so, not just in this industry, but I think in multiple industries across this country. So we're in that moment right now, and we're all feeling it. And I hope things settle sooner than later, and we find that common ground of fairness, so everybody can get back to work.
Hey, just have about a minute and a half left here. Is there a favorite moment of yours in terms of making the movie, or the process? I know it's hard for you to be like, yeah, this is my favorite, it's my baby, or my latest baby. But is there, take us a little bit behind the scenes.
It's two things, like it's hard, as we said, it's hard making the film and pulling all these elements together, and it takes a lot of energy and certainly a lot of money, and you have to hope that the movie gods smile upon you. But for me, it's always two moments in any given film. It's the moment when you pull the whole thing together on the first day of photography. And I think about it all the way to the first moment made up until now. And when you're standing behind the director and you got everybody ready to go, and the director kind of says action, to me, it's like, I feel like a moment of triumph in that moment, thinking, okay, well, this is happening now, and this story will be indelible. Those kind of moments are never lost on me. The second part is when you show your film for the first time in front of a large audience, like we had the opportunity to do in Toronto, and have an audience receive the film the way it did, with a standing ovation the way we had, and just see how people really enjoyed the film. There's nothing more rewarding.
Well, we're looking forward to see it. I have to say, I haven't seen it yet, but I will. I certainly lived it, reporting on it. So fascinating to see the interpretation that you guys did, because it really was a remarkable moment in time for anybody who's been watching financial markets. Another remarkable moment in time, and good to see you guys put it to the big screen. Aaron, good luck with it. Aaron Ryder, producer of Dub Money, as we said, opening nationally on the big screen this Friday today. So check it out. He's joining us, of course, on Zoom in Los Angeles.